Now, it's been a hell of a year for the menaces at Just Stop Oil, who have cemented their place as Britain's most hated campaign group. They've glued themselves to roads, blocked ambulances, stopped kids getting to hospital, and made every effort possible to keep us all colder and poorer. Scores of climate activists have been thrown behind bars for their antics in 2022, with some of them being paid wages and accommodation to cause as much trouble as possible. Well, my senior producer, Ben Leo, did a little digging to find out just exactly who's been funding Just Stop Oil's nonsense in 2022, and surprisingly discovered the wealthy elites behind the chaos are guilty of their own eco-hypocrisy.
Just Stop Oil have been plaguing Britain like never before, but just how do they afford to sit in puddles, gluing themselves to roads while disrupting the lives of ordinary hard-working Brits like you? Well, I followed the money, and surprise, surprise, it turns out these do-gooder eco-loons are in fact massive liberal hypocrites, funded by no less than the heirs of billion-dollar oil dynasties. That's right, Just Stop Oil is funded by dirty oil money.
Online digging reveals the California-based Climate Emergency Fund has given millions of dollars to fund a global network of eco-troublemakers, including Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion in the UK. This year, the CEF made grants of $1.7 million to activists in 25 countries. Donations mainly come from wealthy elites such as Aileen Getty, who is the granddaughter of J. Paul Getty, the oil baron who was once the richest man in the world with a multi-billion-dollar fortune. She currently owns two multi-million-dollar mansions, including a $12.5 million LA pad and an equally as grand Manhattan townhouse. Another Climate Emergency Fund boss is Adam McKay, the director of Netflix climate hysteria film Don't Look Up. McKay's pledged over $4 million to the fund and is happy to disrupt the lives of hard-working Brits, all while publicly posting about his own international flying habits and love for meat eating. In recent years, McKay's boasted about flying 5,000 miles from his LA base to his second country home in Ireland. He once said, "Ireland doesn't have the white noise America has. You don't have the sense of constantly being advertised to." So remember, it's alright for Adam to fund millions in climate fear advertising and protests to you, but he's allowed to jet across the Atlantic to reach his sleepy Irish mansion when things get tough.
I mean, it's absolutely infuriating. Ben joins me now. Ben, I mean, what a bunch of hypocrites.
Well, it's almost like they're trolling at this point. It's all become a bit of a joke. And it does make you wonder, these social justice warriors, male feminists most of the time, but in this case, the Climate Emergency Fund, it's always the people who screech and shout the loudest at plebs like me and you who are actually guilty of the behaviour that they're campaigning against in the first place. And I do wonder, the tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of Just Stop Oil victims, the motorists that they've subjected harassment to this year, do they have access to multiple multi-million-pound homes that they can escape to? Can they fly 5,000 miles across the world when things get tough, or to go on safaris like some of these guys from the CEF do? They can't, and I reckon if you compare the carbon footprint of the two, people like me and you and these wealthy elites, then it's going to be night and day. There's absolutely no comparison. So all in all, as we already know in the first place, it's one rule for them and it's another rule for us.
Well, indeed. And what I found really interesting, Ben, is that you asked some Just Stop Oil protesters if they knew who was paying them to terrorise the nation. Their response is fascinating. Watch.
And the worst thing is, these juvenile Just Stop Oil protester pawns, whilst they're busy blocking ambulances and stopping children from attending their parents' funerals, they don't even know who funds them. Who funds you guys?
Just donations from the public. Yeah.
Right. Do you know that Just Stop Oil has taken massive donations from, oil dynasties such as Jean Paul Getty? Do you know that? Sorry?
No, it's massive.
No, it has. Do you want me to show you?
No, we're not.
You are. I've just told you. You're funded by the Climate Emergency Fund in LA, of which the majority of them are heirs to oil dynasties, including Jean Paul Getty.
I'll have a sensible debate about climate science and the climate crisis and the just energy transition, but there's no point if you're just going to throw mud that doesn't make any sense.
I'm telling you facts. How's that mud? Look, this is your favourite newspaper, The Guardian. Just Stop Oil's spring uprising protest funded by US philanthropists. LA-based Climate Emergency Fund donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to activists. They include Jean Paul Getty, whose oil dynasty made him a multi-billionaire.
I mean, they literally had no clue.
Not a clue, no, and it's incredible. I find it amazing. Yesterday, Just Stop Oil released some stats about their activities this year. 2,000 of them have been arrested, 18 on remand, and 2 are currently prosecuted in prison. They've been convicted. And I find it amazing that they spend so much time and effort plotting these protests, trying to ruin people's lives, make us poorer, make us colder, and yet they don't know the basics of who funds their dirty work. It beggars belief, and it just shows that the weight of their argument is lacking.
Indeed. Well, look, we asked the Climate Emergency Fund for comment. They didn't get back to us. However, Just Stop Oil did. This is what they had to say. We are calling for the end of new oil and gas to protect our democracy, our rights and freedoms, our healthcare, our education, to protect all that we care about and all those we love. We know oil and gas is part of our way of life. All those who fund us know this, and we know this needs to change, and it starts with no new oil and gas.